everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Nerd Show. We are back for another live podcast here on social media, and we have a very special show today. We are going to be discussing a theory brought to us by our very own Alex Moore, who is joining us for the show. Say hi, Alex.
Good morning, everybody.
And also joining with us this morning is Mr. Chad Womack.
Morning, folks.
And if you don't know who I am, I'm Marcus Blake, your host, along with my comrades here. Anyway, but yeah, we got a very interesting podcast talking about how Keanu Reeves, two of his characters that he has played are really the same person. Johnny Utah from Point Break and Shane Falco from The Replacements. We're going to dive into that a little bit later. As you can see, Baby Yoda is already excited for this podcast. But before we get to our main topic, there's a few things we need to discuss. The first one being, I gave a little bit of a rant last week about Sony, which I still hold true to. They're kind of fucking up their release with the PS5. But it may not have been entirely their fault. And I do want to at least apologize and say that the real culprit to why all of the PS5s got reserved early and they didn't have a cohesive release date when you could reserve your PS5 was due to Walmart being fucking assholes. Walmart decided to just go ahead and do it early, not on the pre-planned date that Sony wanted. So it forced every other retailer to start doing reservations, and that's why it hit the market by surprise. And if you didn't get to reserve your PS5, there is another wave coming. Also, apparently, Sony is suing Walmart for screwing everything up. So, again, not entirely Sony's fault. We can blame the evil empire known as Walmart about this. And I would say this. I think the best way to hurt Walmart is don't get your PS5 at Walmart. If they're going to fuck around this way, go someplace else, like Best Buy or GameStop or someplace like that. So, did we at least want to make that clarification? However, Sony, we are still watching you because you've promised backwards compatibility for PS3 and older games on PS2 and PS1. And if you don't actually give that to us and follow through with it, oh yeah, we're coming after you. Because Alex Moore and I, we are destined to square off in Fight Night Round 4 on the PS5. And if you're not going to give that to us, we're going to give you a Rumble in the Jungle, and it's not going to be what you think it is. Anyway. So anyway, that's going on. Also, if you are looking for something to check out on Netflix or whatever, of course, you can start watching The Boys. Season 2 is on Amazon, and Amazon decided to fuck around with our binge watching schedule. Yes, we're calling you out on that because you want us to wait week to week for episodes. How dare you? Just give us the 8 episodes. I don't need to watch it from week to week. Just give it to me. I want it all in one day. It's bad enough I'm going to have to do that with The Mandalorian on October 30th and wait 8 weeks because Disney Plus is in that category, assholes. Sorry. Although, you know what we could look for? Maybe somebody will hack what's going on with Disney Plus and they'll just throw up all of the episodes of The Mandalorian on the net for us to get. Here's hoping.
I don't know, man. I kind of like the format. I kind of liked having something to look forward to every week because you just don't really get that anymore. I almost think that in this pandemic era, we're getting a little bit more spoiled than we already were with getting everything shoved at us at once. I don't mind that every now and then. It's
all right. I'll compromise. Give me the first 3 episodes on day 1, and then make me wait week to week.
All right. I can meet you halfway on that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, come on. But anyway, another show that I actually wanted to recommend is if you have not checked out the show Ratched on Netflix. It's a prequel about Nurse Ratched from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. If you thought she was batshit crazy in that movie, well, this little 8-episode prequel will definitely give you some insight on why she's crazy and stuff. But it's done by the same producers who did American Horror Story. So it's very much done in the same format. Pacing is great. I keep using the word creepy because it just inches you into this, like, you just kind of feel icky by the time you get through it, but you also understand how she was tormented as a orphan and stuff like that, and what she's kind of dealing with. But superb acting by not only Sarah Paulson, but Sharon Stone as the crazy socialite with a disturbed son who likes to kill people. A little bit of a spoiler there. I won't go into many details. Also to Judy Davis, who we all love Judy Davis because she is the ultimate Borg queen here at that nerd show. She played the Borg queen in Star Trek First Contact, which came out in 1996. Also, Amanda Plummer, which if you don't know everything that she has been in, you'll always remember her one iconic role from, sticking up the diner in Pulp Fiction. But the combination of all these really great characters, I mean, really female-driven characters, is just fantastic. And I do encourage people to check it out. Even if you're not much of a horror fan, it is worth checking out. So anyway, that's one thing that you can watch. Also, before this week's Out of the Apocalypse, there's a very special birthday in the world of gaming today. Alex, you know what today is, right?
Is it the 26th of September?
It is.
Oh, I know.
You don't know what special day this is?
Every day is a special day. I can't keep up.
Okay, Mr. Rogers. Look here, you classic gamer. I'm beginning to question your classic nerdom.
Because I posted this earlier this morning, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, I actually looked it up too. But yes, today is the 24th anniversary of the release of Nintendo 64, one of the greatest consoles ever. Yeah, so it came out today, which, it's hard to imagine a console being released in September, considering most of them are released, nowadays, because, I mean, they're always usually released later in the year.
The one that sticks out in my mind is the Dreamcast, $99.99. And didn't the original PlayStation launch in September? Went into like September 5th of 95?
Yeah, but I'm talking about like the last three generations of consoles.
95, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's always usually like November or and stuff.
More recently, yeah. I think back in the 90s, that was, I don't know, for whatever reason, I think that was their target. Like, I remember all of these September releases. I remember, didn't Mortal Kombat keep getting dropped in September with Fatality Friday and Mortal Monday? It always fell in September. That seemed to be their retail target in the 90s. I don't know why.
I forgot about Fatality Friday and.
Oh, I did, because I worked for Funcoland at the time. I'll never forget that crap.
Mortal Monday.
Oh God.
It's just another Mortal Monday.
Hey, there's another Prince reference there.
You can actually make that into a song. I don't know. I feel like my Weird Al Yankovic, Spidey senses coming. Like, right there for that song. So anyway, today is, like I said, the 24th birthday anniversary of the release of the Nintendo 64. And again, I still say that console it's one of the best for this reason. It had one of the greatest first-person shooters ever, GoldenEye.
Probably the single greatest reason to own a Nintendo 64, and I think what got a lot of people into first-person shooters. That
I would still argue the single greatest reason is the Ocarina of Time, because I still think it's probably the best game ever made. So, if not at least a top 5.
Better than X-Wing versus TIE Fighter?
Remember, we also had the first Rogue Squadron on the Nintendo 64.
That is true. That is true.
As well as a Star Wars game we're all begging for a remaster for, Shadows of the Frickin' Empire.
Yes.
Also done by Factor 5.
Well, and next week we'll be getting a new Rogue Squadron video game, which we're all very much looking forward to as well. So.
Yes, sir.
All right. Time for this week's Out of the Apocalypse. Now, I have to preface this because, and as I was having this discussion with a girlfriend this week about shopping at Dollar Tree, Some things are really great to get at Dollar Tree. Like, you don't need to spend $4 for a stick of deodorant when you can get it for $1. Toothbrushes are fine. Okay. I get packing tape and stuff like that, and usually pens. I'm not saying you should buy your cologne at Dollar Tree. You should step it up just a little bit. I mean, when the cologne is the Hulk cologne, and I'm not kidding about that. There really is a brand.
Stop it! Seriously?
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding on that.
Ugh.
I don't think I have the picture on my phone anymore, but I took a picture of it years ago. Also, I'm not sure you should buy a pregnancy test at the dollar store. You might want to pay a little bit more money for that. But Dollar Tree is also really good for finding bargain Blu-rays. Like, I have found a lot of great movies. Like this week, I found the original Child's Play on Blu-ray. Carrie, the original. Also, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. You've got to have that with your horror collection. But you also get a lot of B movies, stuff like that. So you never know what deals that you're going to get. The W movie about George W. Bush, which a good friend of our show, Brian Massey, was in. Got that for $1. So, like I said, I snag what I can when I see really good movies. One movie that should never be in a dollar bin, and I found this at Dollar Tree this week, so we're going to complain about this. Yes, that is Purple Rain. That is way worth more than $1 at Dollar Tree.
Yes.
And I think it isn't. You're all kinds of wrong.
Okay, but doesn't this mean that more people have access to this movie that you love so much?
Okay, I absolutely agree. Yes. Yes. Let's the bright side, which is the second part of my story. They had about 5 copies left. I snagged a couple for myself because, stocking stuffers. And then the other ones went to one of the employees that I was kidding around with that should never be. She's like, a little elderly African-American woman. What? Purple Rain is in there. And I mean, she as soon as she got done checking me out, shut her light off and went and snagged the rest of the copies. Like, I know people in my family who have not seen this movie, and I got to get them. And I'm like, exactly. So, yes, it gives more access. We're not denying that. But the fact that it's in a dollar bin,
it just seems disrespectful.
Yeah. They need to come up with a new 4K edition or come up with a special edition Blu-ray or something. Like maybe Shout Factory could get involved or something.
Well, and we definitely wouldn't mind that. Now
we definitely wouldn't.
Well, you're
the resident Prince junkie that I am.
Yeah, you're a foregone conclusion.
Yes.
Now, if you want to put this B movie called Scorched Earth with Gina Carano in the dollar bin, where the tagline is "Bringing men to justice is her only reward," sure, I get that. However, you also have to add another $1 because Gina Carano is hot and a badass, and in The Mandalorian. So again, I sort of question it, but I think the Rotten Tomatoes rating is 10%. It's 3 stars.
Still better left behind.
Yeah. But it's also got John Hannah in it. So, I mean, maybe it's all I'm saying is certain movies end up in the dollar bin. Not this one. Come on.
You know what should wind up in the dollar bin? A sequel to Purple Rain.
Oh, my God.
Graffiti Bridge is something that most Prince fans would just as soon forget.
Yes.
Cinematically, anyway. The album was decent, but the film, oh, God.
Oh, dear God.
Now, one thing I
Just
didn't
make a list of worst music sequels in the 80s. There's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah. That movie is the equivalent to Batman and Robin as a sequel. Now,
and I've had people debate me on that, Marcus. I've actually had people debate me. People whose musical tastes I genuinely respect will tell me they think that Graffiti Bridge is a better film than None of the Cherry Moon, and then I asked them who their crack dealer is. Because, yes, granted, Under the Cherry Moon was no great cinematic masterpiece, but it's better than Graffiti Bridge by a long shot. Whenever Prince actually had the nerve to say, well, people didn't understand The Wizard of Oz when they first saw it, I'm like, Prince, I know you did not just compare Graffiti Bridge to The Wizard of Oz.
Like the worst straw man I've ever heard in my life.
That's where we tell Prince,
intended.
Every actor does a bad movie. You take your paycheck and forget you made that bad movie.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing I didn't check, is there actually a Purple Rain disc in this Blu-ray cover? And maybe that was the reason. No, there is. It is. It is the movie. So anyway, that's our this week's Out of the Apocalypse. Certain movies just don't end up, they just really don't end up in the dollar bin. Big lots, places like that generally have really good deals. I mean, I've gotten movies for like, $2. I think I got like Anchorman and Star Trek Into Darkness for $2 each. But anyway, but that's what's going on with that. So on to the theme of our podcast today. Yes, we love to put forth theories about movies that we love. And with this being the 20th anniversary of the movie The Replacements, which Alex and I have talked about on occasion throughout the year, Alex came up with a really good theory about how Johnny Utah and Shane Falco are really the same character. So hear him out, hear us out. We're going to discuss it. We're going to show you how this is legitimate if you really think about it. Alex, I'm going to turn it over to you. First of all, how did you come up with this theory, and then go into what you have decided and how it's all true?
Well, I was actually trying to watch the new Bill and Ted movie and discovered that I just wasn't ready to pay the kind of money that they were asking for on all the streaming services, and decided I would wait until later. In doing so, I also discovered that The Replacements was available on HBO Max, so I decided to go ahead and give it a rewatch because I hadn't seen it in a while. And as I was sitting there watching it, yes, I did remember it's the 20th anniversary of that film, but then I started to think about the fact, something that we've probably all thought about before, that he's played a character who was a former quarterback in these two movies, The Replacements and Point Break. But then I started, well, has anybody ever tried to make a connection between these two just for fun to see if you can make a big enough case for it that they're actually the same person? And being somebody who was a big fan of Point Break and had a chance to rewatch it over and over again, I remembered pretty much every little detail about it. So it was really just a matter of looking at The Replacements and seeing if there was enough in there that would not keep it from being a legitimate theory. And there really wasn't. They don't give a whole lot of background information to the character of Shane Falco in the movie. And whatever they do give you, there's easy ways to get around it. Or, as we discovered after I wrote my article, it actually fits along with it. So there weren't really a lot of holes to fill. And the holes that you do fill, you just use a little bit of creativity, and then you can kind of make it work. So the biggest thing, of course, was just the fact that he has a totally different name. And so I did take some liberty in basically coming up with a way to have a legal name change from Johnny Utah to Shane Falco. And the arrival to that is a bit meant to be, humorous, I would say, but not necessarily out of the question per se. I mean, people have changed their names for all kinds of ridiculous reasons and have done so. I mean, Marvelous Marvin Hagler legally added Marvelous to his name just because he wanted that to be said whenever he went into the boxing ring. World Be Free, I don't even know what World Be Free's original name was. I just know him as World Be Free. He was just trying to make a statement about what he wanted in the world that he lived in, and legally changed it. Chad Ocho Cinco, that's not even correct grammatically from a Spanish point of view, and yet he got his last name changed from Johnson to Ocho Cinco. So it really wasn't that big of a stretch, I guess, if you're trying to bring fantasy world into the real world, to go from Johnny Utah to Shane Falco for the reasons that I listed. So, but that was the part that took the most creativity.
Well, kind of. If you're looking at a bit of a stretch, one of the things that I came up with, kind of a plot line in a book, is when you change your name, legally change your name, all of your like legal documents or like degrees or where you went or records or whatever would go to that original name. So in my mind, it's not a big stretch to think that Johnny Utah, if he had changed his name to Shane Falco. Now remember, I mean, the biggest thing, and we discussed this after you came out of the article, both quarterbacks played at Ohio State. They have established that Shane Falco was a quarterback at Ohio State. Multiple sources on the net. So he would have changed all of his names and stuff like that. It's not a big stretch. And then if you really look at it, you can look at the announcers, John Madden, or the coach, played by Gene Hackman, as someone who recognizes that he changed his name. So there is an official record of how he went from Johnny Utah to Shane Falco. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, the only real issue, I guess, beyond that is the fact that they do make mention of the 1996 Sugar Bowl, I think it is,
Right.
in the replacements. And I made a very simple switch. Like, no, she misspoke. She meant 1986.
Right.
Which would have meant that that's around the same time that Johnny Utah was at Ohio State as a junior rather than a senior, I think it was.
Right.
Going by what the things they say in Point Break and the timeline and so forth.
Right.
But
she pulled a Chris Collinsworth in other words, because he screws up all the time.
Right. It's not that big of a stretch. Hold on one second. I finally got Brendan, who messaged me back. He did oversleep, but he's going to join us. So we're going to get Brendan on the line.
Hope he's dressed.
It does. It does happen, folks. And you are awake, sir? Are you coffeeed up, ready to go, Brendan?
In the middle of the street, apparently.
Well, yeah. Let me.
I mean, if you need to take a break to get that extra cup of coffee,
Dude, you don't even know. Erin's boss has got her going to work at 6 o'clock in the morning, and she had to go in on a Saturday, so we had to be up at 4:30 this morning.
what could you possibly be doing at 6 in the morning unless you work in a warehouse or at a gas station?
Well, she kind of does. I mean, they make soup. I mean, there's a warehouse. But yeah, it just, oh, fuck me, dude. I'm so goddamn tired of this shit. And I had to be up. I was up late because we were kegging a test batch of beer last night. And our yield, no, it's not what you think. Our yield was much higher than we thought it was. We ended up getting like 7 gallons on a 5-gallon batch, and all within standards too, on an oatmeal stout, all within range. Of our numbers. So we had to we don't want to waste 2 gallons of beer. So we had to freaking clean another keg. And then we realized, one of the poppets is broken. And then we realized one of the pipe that goes down to the bottom wasn't right. So we had to fix the pipe. We had to cannibalize a poppet from another keg. It was a mess. And I didn't get done at Rob's until like 1:30 this morning. But the good news is we got, an extra 2 gallons of oatmeal stout, and it tastes fucking great.
So the only thing I heard out of that is you have 2 extra gallons that you need to put in growlers and give away to friends. That's what I got out of that conversation.
I don't know if I heard what you heard, but.
And then we're right now in the Keezer, the keg freezer that we're building. We put a collar on it so that you can put 2 extra kegs in there. And then we found out that once we got the collar in, between the bottom of the freezer and the lid, we found that, there's a room for a 5th keg right in the middle one.
Oh, you
right
should
in
have
the
said
middle.
that.
So it's like, ooh, we can have one because we're gonna have 4 taps coming out of it. It's like, ooh, we can have one on hot standby. And then so that was awesome. So we haven't quite finished that. We got the collar on. We got to get beer line and hoses and
first world problems when you have extra beer.
yeah, and then we're brewing.
Waiting,
like,
right,
and
or it was out. Just let
we
me
actually
know.
have to invite people over to start drinking this shit because we're running out of kegs and we're brewing a wee heavy on Sunday.
Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. Yeah.
So, and right now on tap, we have an Imperial IPA, a Munich Helles, which is out of this fucking world, and then a really, really good oatmeal stout.
Nice.
So,
all right. Well, anyway, Brendan, thanks for joining us a little bit late. Brendan actually gave us a second this week's Side of the Apocalypse. Very rarely do we have two. But anyway.
Well,
yes.
This week's asshole of the apocalypse, anyway, is my wife's boss. Thank God she has a second interview for TD Ameritrade on Friday. Please, God.
Yeah, I know, right? Anyway, but getting back to talking about how Johnny Utah is Shane Falco. Now, getting back to your point earlier, what Chad was joking around with, 1996, it could have been, you're right, it's an easy mistake that could have been made by an announcer, when looking at the data. Or just a typo on a sheet of paper. So, I mean, it's not hard to imagine. It really isn't hard to imagine that really they're 10 years off on that, and that Shane Falco really is, in his 30s now when he got that shot to be a replacement player. The other thing is he obviously, because Keanu Reeves was older when he, did that movie, he looks older than he did, when he was 25 in Point Break. So I say let's go with that. That's an easy, typo, said something wrong. It doesn't matter. So for all intents and purposes, let's say that it was, the Sugar Bowl in 1986, and that, Falco is really in his 30s now. So to me, the biggest thing is the fact, and I don't know if this was intentional, but that he is a quarterback from Ohio State in both those movies. And while they don't allude to it as much in the replacements, it's part of, there are sources, part of the record. I mean, it's even part of the trivia on IMDb.com that he played a quarterback that went to Ohio State twice. So to me, that's the biggest thing. But Alex, what else did you find that links these two as the same person?
Well, as far as what's in the actual movies, I don't know what else there is except for the fact that, there's ways to chronologically make it work, as we just talked about, with the minor oversight with the year that they listed and the replacements for the Sugar Bowl and whatnot. But as I was getting to before, the biggest thing that I had to come up with was how he got his name changed. I mean, now it's easy to explain that because when you look at what he went through in Point Break, you can see at the end of the film, he tosses his badge in the ocean, and this is sort of the way of showing the audience that he's quitting the FBI. The fact that he was still 25 or 26 years old by the end of that movie, what might he try and do with the rest of his life at that point is kind of ambiguous at the end of that film. So, that's where I kind of had to come up with some ideas like, well, he played football in college. He was, this big time star. And so, maybe he felt like it was time to give it another shot and really try to make it to the NFL. He talked about how he missed his window and went to law school.
Yeah,
instead.
there is that reference in Point Break. He was considering it.
Right, with his knee injuries and whatnot. Now, there's no mention of any knee injuries, of course, in the replacements, but some time has gone by and he's tried to start his life over, I guess. But it was really just a matter of seeing, well, how much time would it take to get a name change legally, and how do you come up with how he came up with the idea of the name Shane Falco? And that's where I kind of had to kind of make some things up. But I remember that there was a book that I read and there was a movie I watched when I was a kid called Shane. And it was actually about, like a gunslinger. And, sometimes people refer to quarterbacks as gunslingers, but So I thought, well, the Western motif and stories and whatnot were kind of a thing for a while in the 60s and 70s on TV and everything else. And then the fact that the Dallas Cowboys were the big team in the 70s, or one of them at least. If he was a boy growing up in America, even in Ohio, if he were growing up in America around that time, it stands to reason that he would maybe be watching Westerns on TV, or may have read or watched the movie Shane, or watched the Dallas Cowboys. And so maybe that stuck with them. And so the idea of taking on the name of a cowboy that he liked wouldn't be that big of a stretch, as we talked about all kinds of crazy name changes that have taken place historically. So,
well, here's what we need to consider too. I mean, if he gave up being law enforcement, like throwing his badge in the water and all that, and quitting, I mean, he wouldn't be able to just go be a cop anywhere or anything like that.
Right.
Simply if he let someone go, I mean, that would pretty much purge him from being able to. I mean, that would pretty much purge him from being able to do law enforcement anywhere else, right?
He'd be persona non grata like John Wick. Oh, wait a minute. Let's not go down that rabbit hole yet.
And Marcus, you were working on a theory about the one Neo and the Matrix and John Wick, right?
We'll get. I'll explain that later in the show. I was joking around with that. Here is something too. Didn't Shane Falco have kind of a knee brace on during the game, or when he was playing?
I can't remember everything, but possibly. And if he did, then I sometimes wonder if in the replacements, I know it's kind of loosely based on the '87 Redskins, but it's possible, I guess, that they may have come up with some playing homage to the character that he portrayed in the previous movie to some extent. But
it wouldn't surprise me, because that it was purposefully that they were both from Ohio State, and B, if he was wearing, I'll look it up here in a sec, but if he was wearing a knee brace, it was the same knee, because people in Hollywood do little jokes like that all the time. For example, Gary Cole in Office Space, every time he's sitting on somebody's cubicle, he's always playing with a ring on his finger. That ring is the Earth Force class Academy ring from Babylon 5 that his character wore as a prop when he was a captain of the Excalibur in the Babylon 5 spinoff Excalibur. Jesus. So, like, there are little stuff like that in Hollywood all the time, that they do stuff like that. So I was actually looking up a couple of different things, but we'll see if I find anything. But I just wanted to drop that.
I was actually trying to find a full photo of Keanu Reeves from there, and I mean, I can't find anything that's full, but it does look like he's kind of wearing a knee brace. Hello there, fellow nerds. I'm Marcus Blake, the editor and producer of That Nerd Show, and we need your help. That's right, we need your support. Like any news outlet, we rely on advertising and donations to keep the lights on. To be the greatest show in this universe, we need funding, and that's where you come in. Like most artists out there, we actually have a Patreon account, and we're asking for donations. But we're not just asking for you to give us money. We actually have stuff that we're going to be giving away if you donate. So we'll be uploading more and more videos to our Patreon account from YouTube, from our daily news to interviews with celebrities to gaming videos and all of our other individual shows that we are doing here in 2020. But to keep us going, we need a little bit of funding. And that's where you come in. So it can be as little as $1. $1 makes all the difference in the world. And you can do anywhere from $1 to $3 to $5, all the way up to $500. And we're going to be giving stuff away for your donations. So you could get some Nerd Power wristbands or any other wristbands from our series of wristbands that we're creating for nerds. You can get cool retro gaming t-shirts from our Nerd Swag shop if you make a donation of $20 or more. You can even get advertising on our website or within our videos if you make a purchase or donate $50 or more. We have different tiers, like most artists. Want that new video game that's coming out this year? You want to be playing the same video game we are as we're reviewing it? Hey, you can do that with a $100 donation. Are you looking to get a new console before the year is out? Hey, $500 and you can get an Xbox One, a PlayStation 4, or even a Nintendo Switch. It just takes a little bit to help us. As little as $1 per video that we do. And we're going to have a variety of videos that you can help support. So if you like our content, if you like everything that we do as nerds, from honest conversations about pop culture to great celebrity interviews to wacky and fun gaming videos, then help support us on our Patreon account. You can check us out at patreon.com/thatnerdshow. You can check us out at patreon.com/that. Take 3. Go to patreon.com/thatnerdshow and make your donation today. Even if it's just $1. We would greatly appreciate it. Thank you and stay nerdy. But here's the other thing that you can consider too is, after a certain amount of time, he could have reconstructed his knee. And
Sure.
I mean, if you're really looking at, 9 years of after reconstructive surgery and stuff, getting to a point to where you can try and play again wouldn't be out of the realm of impossible. It wouldn't be that impossible, I guess. So anyway, it may that one may be a bit of a stretch as well, but I think the biggest thing that ties these two together is really the reference to how he missed his window in Point Break, and Gene Hackman kind of giving that reference when he seeks him out on the boat,
Right.
Of giving him another shot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they mentioned that he played a year in Seattle and that he should have been a backup, but they tried to throw him in as a starter. And they don't give a year as to when it was that he did that, but you can try and estimate that it was sometime obviously between 1991 and whatever year it is, that I guess 99 technically for the replacements, if it's meant to be like a yearbook film, and it came out in 2000. So,
Well, okay.
Maybe we can ask him. Maybe we can ask him directly. I just found him on Facebook.
Shane Falco. Hey, Falco.
It says former quarterback at Washington Sentinels, former quarterback at Seattle University, studied at Ohio State, went to Northland High School. So maybe he could clarify some of these things.
Yeah. University.
I did find a picture. I guess he's not really wearing a knee brace.
No, just the knee pads. I
Yeah.
found a couple clips on YouTube, and he's just wearing the.
Yeah. Okay, so Point Break would have taken place, let's say 1990, right?
Right. The bulk of the story, yeah.
Well,
Assuming that when it ends, it's at the time that it was released, which was 91, because it's a year later from when it.
Okay.
He's going to see the 10-year storm in Australia or whatever. So.
That was like 6 months later, right?
Or something, yeah.
They said in the movie that it was 6 months later. Or no, he said next year.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say that's 1990, and that.
And then at the end, you're 91. So.
Right,
Yeah.
him being in LA, would have been 89. So if that's true, then 1986 he would have been 22 playing that game. All right. So you've got that. Again, there's enough of a window in there. Do you feel like with the reference that they make about him playing at Seattle, that, how do I say this? Do you feel like that's him going back and trying football after he's out of the FBI? Or maybe he had knee surgery, gave it one more shot, and then it just didn't work out?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say exactly because there's not a lot of information given there. But I think, well, he wasn't coming straight out of college. He was just basically a free agent, if you will. So it's hard to imagine that he would have been just drafted to Seattle like any of these other players coming out of college. But I don't know what goes on with, there's been times where there's been a supplemental draft. I don't know if that's something that goes on.
Well, Falco would have gotten drafted because he was, I mean, like until the Rose Bowl where he stunk it up, he was they talked about how he was a Heisman favorite. So
I know, but this is just going in keeping with theory that we're trying to make work.
Gotcha.
I mean, because in order for the theory to work, we have to assume that when they said 1996 Sugar Bowl, they meant 86.
Yeah.
Just to make the
There
theory
was no
work.
Sugar Bowl in '96. I just looked that up. There was no
exactly.
Sugar Bowl in '96.
That's even further evidence.
That's actually why they were able to mention it in the
right.
To mention it in the movie without it falling under copyright. Okay, so if you go along with the birthday that you said that he was born on September 4th, 1964. Okay,
Right.
he said he was 25 in the movie, so that would make him 25. It would make 1989 the year that happened, and then he tried to
I mean, I thought it was around 1990 possibly, but that would have been the same.
25, but yeah, well, I mean, let's just assume. So, I mean, we're really looking at Falco being, about 35 when he got another shot, with the Washington Sentinels, right? That's kind of what we're thinking.
Right.
Okay.
Which isn't outside the realm of possibility. I mean, you got quarterbacks playing until their late 30s now and playing well. So
yeah. And
he was just on as a replacement. So I mean, he came in for a few games, and they make the playoffs, but we don't know what they do in the playoffs. So I mean,
and it wasn't an offense where he was going to have to scramble a lot. He was a pocket quarterback, which, by the way, that makes a nice, neat little reference to another great football movie, Necessary Roughness, because he was 35 when he went back to college.
That's true.
Yeah.
Don't throw it to stone hands.
Okay, so basically.
And by the way, another receiver that they had to stick them all over.
Oh my God! That is
off an elephant.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that is another reference to Necessary Roughness.
Yeah, there's a few in there. But
there you go. Now you can. Okay, so Necessary Roughness came out 1990.
90 somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think, this year's the 30th anniversary.
at the height of Kathy Ireland's powers.
Oh.
Yeah.
Powers? Is that what you would call that?
What'd you say?
Her powers? Is that what you would call that? Her powers?
She had power over a lot of men.
That's true.
She had a good leg.
Yeah, she had two, actually.
They went all the way up.
Yes, they did.
All right, so we got.
Sorry, I just derailed this train. Holy cow.
Okay. All right, so we got the fact that they both played at Ohio State, minus the the typo or misannouncing the year of the Rose Bowl that he was in. And Ohio State would have obviously played in. Okay.
Yeah, back in the 80s, if Ohio State won won the Big Ten, they would have been playing the Pac-10 champion in the Rose Bowl. Right. There was no playoff system back then.
Right.
So how would they make the reference to the Sugar Bowl?
So basically, the way I explain it is that he played in the Sugar Bowl in '86, and that he was a junior at that point, and then played in the Rose Bowl in '87 as a senior. Is kind of how I explain that, basically.
So technically, he could have played in the Sugar Bowl in '86 if Ohio State was number 1 or number 2 in the country, and they would have put those two teams in whatever bowl would have been the national championship, right?
And I guess it's a little bit of a parallel universe. I mean, there's probably it's not foolproof, I guess, and everything else, but as long as that sort of thing even existed at all, then at least it's got some kind of legitimacy just for the theory.
Well, here's another thing to actually consider as well. While he was stationed in Los Angeles, while he was with the FBI, if he got kicked out or was in any kind of trouble for throwing his badge in the water and letting the guy go, he would have had to go back to Washington for, you know, the
To face
OPR
the-
meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Office of
So he
Professional
could have
Review.
literally, yeah.
So
that's
yeah, he would have been in position to easily get a name change and maybe get a stipend or collect some money that he was owed. And you know, the fact that he's got sort of just a crappy little boat out there in Washington, when you look at the replacements, it's not that hard to believe that he's just trying to lay low and kind of keep a low profile. And
but what I'm saying is that's how he would have gotten to Washington and ended up staying there. You know, if you don't think that he would have gone back to Ohio, and it's a chance for a new life. I mean, you wouldn't stick around in a place like LA and stuff. Now, here's a question. Do you think that he would have continued to surf after he kind of got into all that, or not?
That's a good question. I mean, we see him like doing some deep sea diving and throwing a metal football into the water, but Yep. I wonder if there's a way to look at pictures of his boat and see if he has a surfboard on there somewhere. I guess it's possible, but
there is.
Or maybe possibly he gave it up after he lost that case just because he couldn't bear to live with what had happened, I guess. But
or if we assume he had reconstructive knee surgery again, they told him that he couldn't surf. You know,
if he's trying to get back into playing football, maybe it's too risky to surf because you could get injury elsewhere when you're trying to focus on that. So,
right. Yeah, I mean, so that's not a huge stretch either.
You gotta have good knees when you're chasing down runaway buses through LA to keep them from going over 55 miles an hour.
Yeah, what if you throw in speed a part of this theory too? He joins the LA police force after he leaves the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, he goes and tries to play football.
Well, all I'm saying is I kind of like the idea of this is how you would literally end up. This is how you would literally end up in Washington by getting in trouble with the FBI and getting kicked out at your OPR meeting, and you basically just kind of hang around, trying to decide what you want to do. Now, clearly, because of copyright, they're not mentioning any real life NFL teams.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to kind of make up their own universe on that. But conceivably, you could look at, the Sentinels as just a team that either he follows or somehow looks at it as maybe I'm going to stick around here because there's a chance, or I don't know. But anyway, he ends up, back in Washington that way. Okay, so Ohio State, 10-year difference. What else did you kind of come up with that would make Johnny Utah Shane Falco?
Well, I mean, that's sort of the part where it gets kind of on the silly side, and it's the whole thing with how he came up with the name Falco. And you kind of have to take your pick, because I know you could say there's characters from the video game universe with that name. That's the only thing I could really come up with just off the top of my head when I was coming up with the theory.
Oh, no.
And I guess being a Star Fox fan, I decided to go that route. But
no, there's only one thing that makes sense to me. There's only one thing. Rock Me Amadeus was a huge hit in 1986.
Thank you. Falco.
Oh, the German band. Okay.
I was like, that's where I was going. I'm like,
yeah, I thought that's where you were going.
Sorry, getting a little sound technical difficulty there.
Okay.
Anyway, weird. Thank you, Skynet. By the way, Skynet was taking over Chad's PlayStation this week, trying to play Call of Duty.
Oh God. Oh, there is a ghost in that machine that lives there. I need to call Ghostbusters and get that thing purged.
Now you're starting to sound like that episode titled "Ghost in the Machine" from the first season.
I'm telling you, that thing hates me. It's plotting against me. It's going to kill me in my sleep one day.
Now, if it does that and it has the voice of Chucky, it was sad that it would try to kill you, but at the same time, it'd be kind of awesome.
Actually, I think it's probably going to go more the route of Master Control Program, and it's going to beam me into friggin' Tron. I better get my Frisbee skills brushed up on.
How many nerd references can we make that you may not realize we're making?
We're bringing a shovel. We're gonna pack it in.
Well, I like the idea that Shane Falco has just kind of reinvented his life after leaving the FBI and wants to give it one more shot. And this is his way of doing it. It's kind of like redeeming himself. Plus, there's that whole philosophy by Bodhi in Point Break, which I watched the other night. It's us against the system. It's, don't let anybody beat you down. You pursue your happiness or find your own inner peace. And maybe that's what it is for Johnny Utah. It's that way of, I've got to be able to do this and go out my own way. I never got that chance. It's kind of like his Rocky moment. If I could just go the distance, then they won't say I'm a bum, and, that's what he does. So, yeah, not that huge of a stretch to really look at it. The Replacements. Alex, did you watch that again this week or last week?
I did. And overall, I don't think it's the greatest movie, but I still think it's fun to watch. And I think even though it was made 20 years ago, it doesn't feel all that outdated compared to maybe other movies from that time. And I think there's still some things in it that hold up okay. I mean, story-wise, I think it's pretty cheesy, but there's some funny performances in there. I think the kicker is hilarious, of course, that they bring in from the UK, and
he's Welsh.
All the jokes. I'm bloody Welsh. All right. And I like the tight end who's deaf and does the sign language, and
David Denman. Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's funny to go back and watch that movie now about how life is imitating art, because Michael Jace, who played Wilkinson, who was on a work release program from prison, now really is in prison for 4 years. So can't play around with guns when you're fighting with your ex-wife and shoot her and expect to get away with it.
Well, and if you look at a deleted scene from Boogie Nights, there is that scene where he's beating his wife, and then the main character's trying to rescue from her house where he's been treating her badly. They wind up deleting it from the movie, but also kind of interesting that happened. So
yeah. Two movies, life imitating art with that guy.
Right.
All right, Chad, in what we've been discussing, do you have anything to add or any kind of theory of how these two guys are connected and are really the same character?
It's been so long since I've watched The Replacements, and now you've really inspired me to go back and watch this thing again and try and draw all these parallels. I'm still trying to figure out how maybe he's a long-lost descendant of Jonathan Harker when he played him in Dracula. Who knows? Maybe he really is the devil's son from the devil's advocate, and he keeps being able to reinvent himself.
I got a theory of that.
Is that why his accent was so bad? Is that he was
yes? But I mean, I think it all just can be easily explained away by this is all just dreams he's having while he's plugged into the Matrix.
Thank you for stealing my theory.
That was your theory?
Dude, you could literally tie into all the characters are the same that he has played because Neo is plugged into the Matrix.
Right. These are skills he's picking up in the Matrix.
Look, honestly, I was joking around with Alex too about how Neo and John Wick are the same person, and what happened at the end of Matrix Revolutions is, when he disappears and basically becomes, the Matrix or gets a few. It's like code, you get kind of a Tron where it's just a program that gets kind of infiltrated into everything. So now he's technically plugged back in, and thus starts the John Wick saga.
He's no longer,
Well,
he's no
could he
longer
have made a
Neo, he's the
deal?
Baba Yaga.
Could he have
Right.
made a deal? Could he have made a deal with Agent Smith to be plugged back in as a guy getting revenge for a dog?
That it could be. I mean, the one dude wanted to go back to the Matrix and be a famous actor, somebody important. But one of the things I'm thinking about, I guess we haven't heard, or there hasn't been an official press release, so I guess they're still not doing, or maybe they are still trying to do the John Wick and Matrix Revolutions movie next year. I think they ended up getting delayed because they were trying to do them on the same day. And we thought it'd be a great double feature day to go see them both. But what I thought, those two movies are basically one and the same movies, part one, part two. John Wick, and then the new Matrix movie is how he gets unplugged again. Like, what have I been doing? Why are people calling me John Wick? Just a whole funny little Matrix reference.
Like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like that one where Keanu Reeves was linked to playing Lionel in a Thundercats movie, and I'm like, I love Keanu Reeves, but that ain't gonna work. Thundercats,
No.
Thundercats. Whoa.
Oh.
All right. Now, if you really want an outlandish, wild theory about how the timelines kind of sync up, and Johnny Utah is really Shane Falco, it takes Bill and Ted traveling in their time machine, photo booth, and alternating everything. And Keanu Reeves hits upon every character that he's ever played, and somehow messes up the timeline to where these two characters are basically the same character. And now we have a Bill and Ted fourth movie. No, it's weird. That's really a stretch. That's where, like, I've eaten two of hippie grandma's brownies and, like, dude, crazy theory that's probably true. It's either that or
Something that happened to him when he got knocked unconscious while he was playing Todd in Parenthood. As this has all been a fever dream.
Right.
I want to know if there's a way we can tie in Sweet November, and so that would be the ultimate. That would be impressive.
And his appearance in the Rush video with Paula Abdul, we got to work that in somehow too.
Wow. You know what? That is an interesting theory of how the devil's advocate goes right into Sweet November, and that's how they reinvent their lives.
Oh boy.
Wow.
This rabbit hole is huge.
Julie will have to join us for that one. Wait, we're talking about a Charlize Theron movie? Yeah, but it's not really one of the good ones.
Yes.
It's essentially a grown-up Nicholas Sparks movie. It's two white people almost kissing on the cover.
Oh God, I know. The best part of Sweet November is Jason Isaac as the drag queen gay neighbor that he spends Thanksgiving with. Because Jason Isaac,
I like the scene where he's trying to sell the hot dog to the representative.
that is true.
It's
too.
a hot dog.
But
Sounds like something William Shatner would say.
All right. So here's another question. How many people saw the remake of Point Break?
crickets,
Okay.
tumbleweeds.
I guess I was the only one that.
Not horrible. It's not horrible, but
No. Here's the way I look at the remake. If it wasn't a remake, it would have been kind of an average action movie. It wasn't bad. Edgar
Ramirez
played a great villain. I liked the idea of them trying to do these 8 great, superhuman tasks that deals with Buddhism, philosophy, saving the earth type stuff. So it wasn't simply just robbing banks. I thought that was actually very interesting. However, as great as Ray Winston. Thank you. As great of an actor as he is, he was no Angelo Pappas. Yeah. He just didn't.
Winston fell off the map for me after Crystal Skull, bro. He's kind of lost a lot of my admiration after that.
Well, he wasn't bad in that movie. Again, it was the movie itself and Shia LaBeouf dragging that movie down, and yeah, it was more of a nostalgic. Hey, we're going to make another Indiana Jones movie, and I was like, okay, well, great, whatever. Thank you for making an X-Files episode with Indiana Jones.
Now, Mac was like an indecisive girlfriend. Do I want to date him? Do I not want to date him? Do I want to be a good guy? Do I want to be a prick? Do I want to be a good guy? Do I want to be a prick?
Well, Point Break is one of Gary Busey's all-time best movies. He's just so fucking hysterical in that movie. But anyway,
he's Gary Busey.
That's a man that's done a lot of drugs.
Yes.
Like he's the Keith Richards of acting.
Oh my god.
Like,
do you remember he had kind of a reality TV show on Comedy Central called I Am Gary Busey, and it just cameras followed him around like it was EdTV. Him not only practicing martial arts, but going to poetry readings at like coffee shops, which was scary in its own right. Yeah, it didn't really last long because there's only so much you can take of that dynamic without lots of mind-expanding drugs, which we're not promoting on this podcast.
Yeah, he's man, he's out there. Holy shit.
Yeah. But anyway, getting back to the original topic, yes, I would conclude that there is definitely a way to make Johnny Utah Shane Falco, to see how that character evolved, and that's kind of his redemption, in life. And at the same time, how he kind of inspires younger people, well, I guess younger people, but those around him being a football captain again, and kind of applying some of that same philosophy that he learned from Bodie and Point Break. So, Brendan, since you chimed in a little late and everything, do you think this theory kind of holds up? Do you think it's plausible?
I don't think it matters one way or the other. I think it's just fun to talk about.
Right.
And like, it's
Right.
kind of like, people start talking about religion and they want to talk about, proving God. It doesn't fucking matter. Like, if it matters to that person, that's all that matters. And so with fun stuff like this, it's like, it's getting us to use our imagination and have fun just inside our own minds, and being able to imagine these funny scenarios and these connections between disparate movies and characters. And really, isn't that what the movies are supposed to do?
Yes.
So,
Well,
get us to imagine again, like allow us to be kids for 2.5 hours and not be adults and not have to worry about getting up at 4:30 in the fucking morning on a Saturday.
You sound bitter. Am I picking up on the subtlety here?
A wee bit, just a wee bit. By the way, quick note: the what it's like to wait in line at the VA meme behind me. Keep right lane closed. First of all, I actually took this picture. This was the Walnut Hill Dart Station back in 2009. It was the first picture I ever took with a camera phone, and I was walking to the Dart Station to go downtown, and I had to take this picture because I knew it would make a great meme one day. And then the Phoenix VA scandal happened. And the reason why I'm putting this up today is because the VA has just taken caregiver status away from a veteran with no arms because she took a trip with her caregiver to go see her family. And they're like, well, if you took a vacation, you obviously don't need a caregiver. She's got no fucking arms.
Wow.
How's she going to comb her hair, take a bath, go to the grocery, get groceries, drive herself to work? Yeah, like, so that's what the VA is. So I'm putting this up today just to remind everybody that, hey, regardless of who's at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, because everybody's so caught up with that because it's an election year, the VA still sucks.
Yes.
The one
It
thing.
has for a long time.
Giving America's veterans a second chance to die for our country since 1930.
That's why I've never gone there. People have asked me all the time, why don't you use your VA benefits? I'm like, because I know what it's like.
Like, if I didn't have to, I wouldn't.
So I will say, for me, Chad, and Brendan, when it comes to getting up at 4:30 in the morning, we all have a piece of paper that says we don't have to do that shit anymore. It's called a
I
DD.
wrap myself in my DD214 Whoopie and say, "Go away."
Right.
Leave me alone.
When the girlfriend said we should go running together, I invoked the I have a piece of paper from the United States Army that says I don't have to do that anymore.
No more reveille for me, asshole.
Right. It's better than a doctor's note.
To quote Robin Williams from Good Morning Vietnam, I woke up at 04:30 this morning. What's the O stand for? Oh my God, it's early.
Anyway, okay, so well, we're going to wrap this up a little bit, but I want to ask this question. With Keanu Reeves, we all love Keanu Reeves. I mean, you know, I've never heard one bad story about him. You can complain about his acting in certain movies and all that, and whatever. I also think he's done some great movies where he's, you know, been fantastic. And who doesn't love the John Wick movies? Come on. The first
Good
one,
Lord.
I mean, it's gun porn.
Yes.
And by the way, I'm not saying that in a negative way.
No, I get it. I totally get you, man. It is gun porn.
I want them to make a sequel to Hot Fuzz where they're watching the John Wick movies and Nick Frost is like, yeah!
Oh God, yeah. even if it's just an internet short. Like, it didn't even have to make a whole movie. I just need those two characters reviewing action movies. Hell, this is a great idea. We should get on Twitter and reach out to Simon Pegg and Nick Frost and be like, you need to do this.
And they'll be like, okay.
Yeah. Well,
and make a sequel to Paul while you're at it.
You've never seen Point Break or Bad Boys 2. Which one do you want to watch? Doesn't really matter. No, which one do you want to watch first?
It's like he's in the cooler. No. Did you say anything cool? No, it's a shame. He goes, well, there was this one bit earlier where I hit him over the head and distracted him with a stuffed animal, and then I hit him over the head with a plant and said, "Playtime's over." You're off the chain, man.
That literally is my favorite movie of their.
Oh God, yeah, Hot Fuzz is the best of the three by far.
It's just the scene where he's walking in with a double barrel shotgun with a toothpick in his mouth, like it's a Sergio Leone movie, and he just looks at the kids who are always in trouble for spray paint, drops the bag. Anyway, yeah, that movie. I may have to watch that this afternoon. But getting back to Keanu Reeves to wrap this up, what do you think is the best Keanu Reeves movie? Like your all-time, the one that you always go to for a Keanu Reeves movie. And I also have a little bit of a trivia without anybody looking it up on the net. So, Alex, we'll start with you. Your favorite Keanu Reeves movie?
Gonna have to go with the movie from 1994 and say Speed.
Nice. Another 1994 movie. All right. So, it is a good movie. Also, in regards to that movie, I would love to hear Eddie Izzard do subtitles in French. The Speed. Anyway, good one. Chad, how about you? Your favorite Keanu Reeves movie?
God, it's a really tight race between the first two John Wicks.
Okay.
I love those movies so much. It's almost like watching just a segue. There, to me, it's just one long movie. So just anything with John Wick in the title is.
Look, can we just admit that the first John Wick movie is the greatest SPCA commercial ever?
Don't fuck with
sorry. Move over, Sarah McLachlan.
After you.
Move over, Sarah McLachlan.
The Sarah McLachlan. I will remember you. John Wick's just shooting people.
I will perforate you.
Yeah.
That's more I will avenge you. Anyway,
Brendan, how about you?
I'm just going to go with just because of how it changed movie making for the last 20 years.
Yep.
I'm going with The Matrix.
Yeah,
the original
that was a tough
Matrix.
one.
because I mean it literally changed how filmmakers make movies and how people watch movies and what we expect from action movies. And it was, you know, it had a lot of groundbreaking technology. It really was like to the dawn of the 2000s and 2010s as Star Wars was to the 1980s and 1990s,
Right.
you know, and how it just changed how we looked at movies. So, yeah. And then, you know, and hey, by the way, there's a link between the Matrix and John Wick too. What do you need? Guns. Lots of guns.
Lots of guns. Yeah. The only reason I didn't go with the Matrix because I think I love the Matrix as a cinematic experience, not because of Keanu Reeves. It was because of the Wachowskis.
Yeah,
Right.
but I mean, Keanu did a good job in it too. So you know, I granted, I mean, older Keanu is a much better actor. He's more refined in his craft, and I think he's more comfortable with himself as a person. But
Right.
I just as a whole, as a movie, what's my favorite movie with Keanu Reeves in it? The Matrix.
Yeah.
No, and I can go with that. So I'm going to be. This is a departure from everybody else. I agree about the Matrix. Love John Wick movies and stuff, and Speed's always great. I love 47 Ronin, the movie he did, but years ago. I think it's underrated. I think
about 10 years ago now. I think.
Yeah, I think blending in a little mysticism with the 47 Ronin story was great. You had a wonderful Japanese cast, and I mean, just the action scenes, were fantastic. And it's a movie that still gives me goosebumps. I found like a $5 copy on Blu-ray on Amazon and bought it and watched it again about a month ago. And I mean, really just that last shot of understanding the 47 Ronin story and the fact that they allowed him, even though he wasn't samurai, but he had the samurai's heart, to do seppuku. And it's a sad movie, but it's a great movie. And I really love that line after he gets rescued by the captain of the samurai. And he tells him, "You ever bow to him again, I take your head." I thought that just summed up everything about what they were fighting for.
But I think I think the best thing about Keanu Reeves though is with the exception of stuff like, the romantic stuff, the stuff he obviously did for women audiences. Like if it's a Keanu Reeves movie and you're bored on a Saturday afternoon and it's raining and you don't want to go outside and you're flipping through the channels and any one of these Keanu Reeves movies that we just mentioned is on TV, you stop channel surfing.
Yeah.
Like if Speed's on,
line up, watch those 4 movies back to back to back too, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch, if you come across Speed or you come across John Wick or you come across The Matrix or you come across 47 Ronin, or hell, even if you come across The Replacements, you're gonna stop and watch that movie because you're going to be entertained for the next 2 hours.
Yeah, and Keanu Reeves makes entertaining movies. I mean, maybe he'll never win an Oscar or anything like that. Hell, I'll even say
I could see Lifetime Achievement happening someday. I mean, I could see that.
Him even playing the bad guy and the jealous brother in the Much Ado About Nothing movie back in 1993 that Kenneth Branagh did, but had Denzel Washington, Michael Keaton, and Keanu Reeves in.
Speaking of which, with Kenneth Branagh doing the Hercule Poirot stories, I would love to see Keanu Reeves in it win one of them one a day.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because he's putting together some pretty amazing ensemble casts for both Murder on the Orient Express and now Death on the Nile, which comes out in December now because it got pushed back. Fucking COVID.
The biggest reason we're all also looking forward to Cyberpunk 2077 is because Keanu Reeves is in it, and to have him come out and kind of announce the game, which again, great. But I'd also love to see him get back to doing more Asian movies. He did a great little movie, Man of Tai Chi, which I was one of the few that did that actual press screening when most people went to go see, I can't remember, it was one of the bigger movies. And I think there was like 5 of us that watched it. And it was just, his acting wasn't really great, but he directed it and told that story about a guy who loses focus by using Tai Chi to fight, to try to make money. But anyway, Here's your trivia question of the day. It is actually the very first movie that Keanu Reeves was ever in. He's from Canada. And it was also the first time he was in a movie with Patrick Swayze. Name that movie without looking it up.
Can't.
Chad? Alex?
Roadhouse or whatever that is?
No, he wasn't in Roadhouse. Way before that.
Oh, wait. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I found it. Son of a bitch. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Alex? No. And the movie is a great little underrated hockey movie called Youngblood.
Youngblood. Yep.
With Rob Lowe.
Yeah, okay.
Keanu Reeves plays one of the hockey players, but Rob Lowe and Patrick Swayze play brothers again. And if you can name the first movie where they played brothers, then you definitely enjoy movies. But yeah, it's about a guy who, young phenom, played by Rob Lowe, brother. They're on a Canadian hockey team. Brother gets injured, and it's about him learning how to all aspects of hockey, and also having to learn how to stand up and fight sometimes. With also in love with the coach's daughter. But Keanu Reeves plays one of the other hockey players, and consequently enough, or coincidentally, I should say, that was what Keanu Reeves wanted to do. He wanted to be a professional hockey player in Canada before he had a knee injury. So there you go. Anyway, we're going to close this out. Excuse me. We'd love to know if you subscribe to the theory, is Johnny Utah really Shane Falco? You can tweet us out on Twitter at That Nerd Show, or just send us an email at editor@thatnerdshow.com. Let us know what you think of that, or if you have any other evidence that we didn't talk about of how these two characters are one and the same. So,
also like to recommend that somebody put those two movies together on a box set, because I think they absolutely should go together.
I agree.
Or on one of those double DVDs.
Yeah.
Hey, it would be a great double feature. So I'm very glad that I watched them this week. So, all right, everybody. Brendan, sorry you had to be up at 4. Maybe we should be giving you a copy of Purple Rain to help you deal with life today, that I found in a dollar bin at Dollar Tree, which is...
That's all right. I got the soundtrack on freaking on vinyl. I'm good.
By the way, I got to make this, before we close it out, this pop culture reference. While we don't talk about Stars, we are based in Dallas, and the Dallas Stars are actually in the Stanley Cup after 20 years. Well, the last time they won it was in 1999. And there are shirts going around for the Dallas Stars. We're going to party like it's 1999.
I need one of those.
Quick question before we go. I have a quick Keanu Reeves question before you go. We've never really seen Keanu Reeves play a villain. So pick a major franchise or a major motion, some type of big thing that's coming out. What villain would you like to see Keanu Reeves play?
Oh, I'm with you on Darth Revan. That's...
Well, Revan's more of an anti-hero than a villain.
But still.
But who else?
I don't know.
I have a different one that I think is going to surprise everybody. So everybody tell me their thoughts, and then
I don't know. It's kind of hard to imagine him to a point. I mean, I see him more of an anti-hero than anything else. Actually, which I think would be kind of funny, because I think he has some very dry comedic chops. If they ever remade that classic film with Jane Fonda and Lee Marvin, Cat Ballou, I'd love to see Keanu Reeves play the villain part in that. Or, I don't know. That'd be kind of...
What about you, Alex?
I honestly don't know. We're talking about future movies, franchises. I mean,
any movie. Just pick a movie with a classic villain. What classic villain would you like to see Keanu Reeves play?
I think there were whispers about him playing as Anakin in the original Star Wars movies. I know that's not exactly a villain per se, but I guess that's more of an anti-hero too in a way. But maybe give him a chance to redo episode 2 or 3 and have him step in instead of Hayden Christensen.
Chad, what are you going with?
Let him be Victor Von Doom. Screw it.
I like that one. That one's actually pretty good. But
yeah, wow.
And and Kevin Feige's looking for a way to get him into the MCU anyway. But no, the one I think he would be really cool, and this kind of goes, it's not an Asian film in origin. It's an American made up story, but it's an Asian character. I would actually like to see, because this person can be anybody he wants. I would like him to see him play Shang Tsung.
Oh,
in Mortal Kombat.
Wow.
Damn, I like that idea.
Nice.
Well played. Jesus.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he would be an awesome Shang Tsung.
That is, oh, dude, I could so see that. Oh, geez, dude, that mind blown.
You get no argument from me on that one.
I love that idea.
So yeah, that's my addition to the show.
Well, as I said before, we'd love to know your thoughts. Actually, tweet us out that question: who you think what villain Keanu Reeves should play. That's a very absolutely. All right, like I said, we're going to close this out. We're going to get out of here today. But let us know your theories about whether Johnny Utah is Shane Falco and how. Elaborate more on what we talked about. But we'll be back next week. I want to thank Alex for his editorial and Chad for joining us this morning, and Brendan popping up even though he was late, but still having
no problem, brother.
None of us were up at 4:30.
Right.
No. So
not on purpose anyway.